When the game on the line, you can't fold and you can't bend. Y'all be playing it safe and I be going for the win. Remember back when they was doubting on the kid. Now they tuned in cause my game too legit.
What is going on, Headliner Nation? Jake and Kyle coming back at you today talking about them ball catchers. That's right, the top 24 wide receivers for 2021 fantasy football. And Kyle, we're not wasting any time today. We're getting straight into the list and talking about some wide receivers. And we differ at the very beginning. And
we do, but our top four are basically the same.
You're right. They're kind of just in a different order, right? Yeah. So you know what? Let's go ahead and just put up the top four here overall. All four of them. You have Davante Adams at number 1, where I have Stephon Diggs. Number 2, you have Tyreek Hill. We agree there. Number 3, this is where we have them switch, Diggs and Adams. And then 4, we both have DeAndre Hopkins. For me, I mentioned it in a quarterback video, which will probably drop at some point in the future.
Aaron Rodgers does not give you the warm and fuzzies.
I don't have that warm fuzzy right now, and I hate that I don't have that warm fuzzy because I love Davante Adams, but I dropped him down a couple spots just because, in my opinion, the safety of Stephon Diggs and the volume he's going to get, we know he can put up huge numbers already because we've seen that, and Tyreek Hill has that big playability that we've seen in Kansas City forever. He doesn't need the huge targets. He doesn't need the huge reception numbers. He can put up huge fantasy points in very little numbers. And then my boy DeAndre Hopkins in Arizona, a little bit of everything, right? He gets targets, he gets touchdowns, he gets deep balls, he gets short passes, he just does everything. So for me, DeAndre Hopkins, and for you right there at number 4.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, this is basically like 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D of wide receivers. They're all uber talented. They're all in great situations. They're all playing with good quarterbacks. So I mean, it's really just about your preference here. None of these guys really should be going off the board before the late first round. You should be going running back heavy to start your draft in the first round. If you have a late first round pick, then maybe you think about one of these guys. But really this year, I think we're only going to see maybe 2, maybe 3 wide receivers go in the first round. That's going to be about it.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of running backs going early here this year because everybody's talking about running backs early. So number 5 here, let's go down here. We start to continue our differences. I have Justin Jefferson, number 5. You have Calvin Ridley of the Atlanta Falcons. Don't dislike Ridley here. I have him a couple spots lower. The volume is definitely going to increase, and we saw at times when Julio Jones wasn't on the field, Calvin Ridley just dominated volume-wise. What does Kyle Pitts, take away? That's a question mark I have for Justin Jefferson. This kid isn't going to catch anybody by surprise this year like he did last year maybe, but the talent is so well maintained. I mean, the dude is like a well-oiled machine because when you look at him and you watch tape on him, he doesn't look super athletic. He's not DK Metcalf out there, you know what I mean? But he just does everything so well, and his route running is great. He's got great hands, good speed. He's just a complete package. That's why I got him here number 5.
Yeah, I've got him lower than that. I mean, with Ridley, I mean, it's all about volume, and he produced as a wide receiver 1 even when Julio Jones was on the field. I know that argument's going to be down in the comments below because people have already tried to comment with that argument this offseason. No, Calvin Ridley was a wide receiver 1 when Julio Jones missed games. Okay, so that argument's out the window. We know he can be a wide receiver 1. For Justin Jefferson, it's just all about Adam Thielen this year. Towards the end of last season, we saw that shift where Justin Jefferson had become the number 1 target. But now, like you said, he's not catching anyone off guard this year. So if he starts to see a little bit of a different coverage, do they start to look back to Adam Thielen? Just maybe comes back just down a little bit because maybe some of that volume that we saw last year that wasn't to the red zone starts to go back to Thielen just a little bit.
Yep, I hear you. Number 6, I have DK Metcalf. You have Keenan Allen. I'm going to compare DK Metcalf to a running back, which makes no sense whatsoever. But just go with me here for just a second. DK Metcalf is like the Aaron Jones of the wide receiver group. He's going to finish inside the top 10, but he's going to get the bulk of his points in a handful of games because he's going to have some big, huge games that are going to he's going to win you matchups certain weeks. And then some weeks he's just going to go out there and get 4 receptions for 48 yards and no touchdowns, and you're going to be disappointed.
So he's like Amari Cooper.
That's exactly right. He's kind of like Amari Cooper, except he's better. because I got him higher. Okay, Kyle? I got DK Metcalf still at 6. I still think that he sees at the end of the year a high point total. I think he just may be somewhat not the safest weekly guy that we throw into lineups, but I mean, the guy, the talent-wise, is off the charts, right? We know this guy can do everything. It's just what does Seattle do with him?
For those of you watching, that was actually me giving Amari Cooper props and not necessarily trying to disparage DK Metcalf. But no, yeah, I mean, we talked about it in the quarterback video and when we talked about Chris Carson and running backs. I know because this video is coming out before running backs. I can't remember.
We're just teasing people with it, though. Don't worry.
We're teasing videos that are coming later. We were recording these all in one night, and it's getting late. So anyway, so with DK Metcalf, it's it's all about that concern of season started great for him last year, and then it completely disappeared in the second half. Why did that happen? Oh, we're going to run the football a lot more. Pete Carroll, just let Russ throw the football.
Just throw the football.
That's all I want.
That's right. What about Keenan Allen? You want to talk on Keenan Allen for a second? Since that's where you have him at number 6.
He's a beast. He's the best to ever do it.
Wow, I don't know about that.
He's one of the most purest route runners in all of football, and now he's got Justin Herbert. Just let's go, baby.
I mean, you're in the education field, right? For your career, and you just said most purest.
The most purest.
Is that even legit? Like, can you say that?
Pure Michigan, baby.
That's pure. That's got Michigan written all over it. All right, let's see here. Moving on, number 7. This is where I have Calvin Ridley, who we spoke on. You have Allen Robinson. I love me some Allen Robinson. I got Allen Robinson a couple spots lower, but number 7, I don't dislike it this is the only reason that I can say. This dude has put up top 10 numbers with some of the worst quarterbacks of all time. I still think he's going to start the season with Andy Dalton, and that's still his best quarterback he's ever played with. And then at some point they go to Justin Fields, who is then his best quarterback he's ever played with. I don't dislike him right there at 7 where you got him.
And he's the bona fide alpha in that offense.
Yes.
He has good supporting weapons that you're not going to always be able to double coverage Allen Robinson, get away from it, but they aren't good enough that it's going to be like, oh, they're taking way too many targets away.
Yep. No, not going to happen. Number 8, I have Michael Thomas, which is a little bit higher than you do. Here's where you have DK Metcalf. Michael Thomas, I think, is going to be the guy this year that is going to rack up receptions but take a huge hit in yardage because we're used to those 1,700-yard seasons with a healthy Michael Thomas with Drew Brees. I think that whoever his quarterback is, whether it's Taysom Hill or Jameis Winston, is going to lock on to this guy because there's not much else in this passing offense. He's going to get a ton of targets, and he may be somebody that goes out there and catches 10 balls in a week and maybe only gets 80 yards. He'll hit a touchdown time and again. But I think if you're in a PPR scoring, which this is half point PPR, he's just going to be a safer option just due to the amount of sheer volume he's going to get.
Let me do a little bit of visualization here for you, okay?
I'm paying attention.
If Taysom Hill is the quarterback, his floor is like right here, but his ceiling's like right here. If Jameis Winston is the quarterback, his floor is like right here, but his ceiling's like right here. So that's my only thing with Michael Thomas is who's going to be the quarterback. And that's basically all that is this offseason. Who's going to be the freaking quarterback? Because if Michael Thomas has Hill, he's going to get a ton of targets, but Hill's not going to be able to push the ball down the field as well. So his ceiling's going to come down a little bit because it's going to be all those slant routes, all that stuff over the middle of the field. And then if it's Jameis Winston, he can push the ball down the field. So that's going to bring up Jameis Winston's, floor a little bit because he's going to be able to, but the ceiling's going to come back down because you're going to be throwing the ball to Traquan Smith a little bit more often.
Yeah, I mean, 2021, rebirth of Slant Boy. That's what I'm calling it. Number 9, I have A.J. Brown. You have Justin Jefferson. Spoke on Jefferson a little bit earlier. For me, A.J. Brown was inside my top 5 when we first did these. I've bumped him down. Why? Well, Julio Jones is in town now. And even though I still think that A.J. Brown is going to be the quote-unquote alpha in this offense for the wide receivers, I think he has the better overall year. He's still going to lose a lot of targets going the way of Julio Jones, where a month ago he was like the guy that was going to get everything. Now he's going to have to split with Julio Jones, but still super high ceiling. Got him right here, number 9.
Yeah, and I've got, Justin Jefferson, number 9, who we've already talked about. A.J. Brown's at 10 for me, so he's right behind it. You have Allen Robinson at number 10, who we've already talked about. So just touching base on AJ Brown. Yeah, it's the same thing. We've seen him be uber efficient. We know that him and Tannehill have that connection. Just some of that volume that we thought he was going to have earlier in the offseason, it's kind of disappeared now.
Yep, agreed. All right, so now that you've gone down the rankings here a little bit, number 11 is where we'll pick back up here. This is where I have Keenan Allen. You called him the most what? Most something? Most greatest? Most purist, that's what it was. Yeah,
purist route runner.
I mean, he is a very underrated route runner. I will give you that. You have Terry McLaurin, who is somebody that we both love this year. I got him one spot lower at number 12. Both of us have him inside the top 12 with Fitzmagic under center. The sky is the limit this year with Terry McLaurin.
They've added Curtis Samuel, which is fine.
Fine.
He's a guy that's going to help take the pressure off Terry McLaurin, because you can do a lot of different things with Curtis Samuel, but he's not a guy that's going to take like substantial targets away from Terry McLaurin, where he isn't still going to be. The one thing about Terry McLaurin is he's going to lose some of that ceiling because of how good that defense is. They're going to be able to run the football a little bit more often.
Love it. So that's where I got him at number 12. This is where you have Michael Thomas, who we spoke on, 13. This is where I got Mike Evans, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and you have DJ Moore up at number 13. I'm sensing some spiciness on DJ Moore. For Mike Evans, for me, he kind of solidified himself as, I don't want to say the go-to in that offense because there's just so many weapons, but around the red zone, he was definitely somebody that had Brady's eye, right? So Brady and him had that connection. We know Gronk is in the mix. Chris Godwin's still there. Antonio Brown. It's like everybody and their mother is in Tampa Bay just playing football for rings right now. But Mike Evans, in my opinion, is still the safest guy to own in that passing offense right now in Tampa Bay.
There is a video coming on DJ Moore next week.
Nice little tease there, Kyle. I like it.
Just to let you all know, keep an eye on that. Mike Evans, the connection with Tom Brady was pure at the end of last season. Pure. Expect it again.
Perfect. All right, number 14 here. I have Julio Jones of now the Tennessee Titans, which is still weird to say. This is where you have Mike Evans, so only one spot behind me for Julio. He's not going to be the Julio of old, right? I mean, don't go in there expecting 1,800-yard Julio, and you're not going to be disappointed. You go in there and expect maybe 1,000, 1,100-yard Julio with 5 to 7 touchdowns. I'll buy that here this year. That's the sweet spot for Julio Jones, just outside the top 12 wide receivers. I got him right here at 14.
Yeah, and the big thing is he's moving from an offense that really was going to have to pass more often to an offense that's not going to have to pass as often. So he's going to have to rely on some of that efficiency. So again, that volume might drop down a little bit, but we might be seeing him, bring in more efficiency with some of those catches.
Yep, agreed. So this is where you had Mike Evans, who we spoke on. 15, we agree. We both have Chris Godwin here, number 15. Still, I think, in my opinion, the volume guy in Tampa Bay. He may see the most volume, won't maybe not see the most touchdowns, right? So that's why we have Mike Evans a little bit higher for those touchdowns, but Chris Godwin, still a super safe, solid wide receiver too here once again in 2021. At number 16, this is where I have Bobby Trees. Bobby Trees of the Los Angeles Rams. This is where you have Julio Jones. You have Robert Woods just one spot lower at 17. Robert Woods he's kind of weird, right? I mean, not in a bad way, but like Robert Woods started his career in what was he? He was just like in Buffalo, like, okay, whatever. Now all of a sudden, Robert Woods,
Taylor,
dude, Robert Woods is almost as safe as you can possibly be at this position in fantasy football because he can get you that volume. He can go out there and get 10 plus targets. He has that breakaway speed for those big plays over the top. I mean, you take the jet sweeps out of the backfield. I mean, they're always utilizing him in so many different ways. It makes his floor super safe. That's why I got him at number 16.
Yeah, 100%. Robert Woods is going to see passes. He's going to catch those passes. He's going to score some touchdowns. That was the biggest thing last year. He only had 2 touchdowns in 2019. So we were like, he's going to have to get some of those back. It's going to happen. He did. Now with Stafford, maybe we see a little bit of that volume come up. Those touchdowns stay the same. I mean, he's going to be a super safe guy every single week to start.
Yep. Let's see here. So you have him one spot lower at 17. 17 is where I have Amari Cooper, which is one spot higher than you, Kyle. I have Amari Cooper higher than you do. Not by much. Okay, we'll say that. But in my opinion, Amari Cooper, even though he's sharing targets with Michael Gallup and CeeDee Lamb, and now they'll have Zeke Elliott back in the backfield with a healthy offensive line, so he's going to soak up some touches. He's still the guy in Dallas this year. Now, Is it going to be after this year, which is the big question mark? Right now, he's still going to be the safest option on a weekly basis to soak up the most volume in what is going to be still a pass-heavy offense, because we expect them to be trailing at times and having to throw like we saw in 2020. So that's why I got Amari Cooper right here, 17.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with Amari Cooper is that we're finding out recently, and this is one of the reasons I dropped him, is he might not be 100% because of his ankle come training camp. So if he's going to be a little bit behind, that just gives CD Lamb, who I have one spot below Amari Cooper at 19, just gives him that opportunity to kind of gel with Dak Prescott a little bit more. But people forget last year when Dak Prescott was healthy, even with Gallup and CD Lamb there, he was consistently peppering Amari Cooper with targets.
Yep, agreed. So like you said, you had him at 18. 18's where I have DJ Moore. I'm not going to spoil any of the sexy goodness that you got on him next week. He could be taking a huge leap forward for sure. 19 is where you have CeeDee Lamb, who you just mentioned. I have Adam Thielen, and I have Adam Thielen here only because the dude won't go away when it comes to touchdowns. Like, it just seems like he has a nose for the end zone, but only in the second half of ball games. Like, this guy just finds a way to score 1 or 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter every other week, it seems like. And for that reason, it gives him a safer floor-ish because he's just scoring so many dang touchdowns on a weekly basis.
Yeah, fourth quarter comes, and he's got like 4 catches for 19 yards, and all of a sudden the fourth quarter he catches 3 passes for 70 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, that's like,
I mean, it happened on multiple occasions last year. So, with Adam Thielen, I'm saying, hey, I just think maybe some of those touchdowns regress a little bit. Maybe he does see a little bit more volume. Justin Jefferson maybe sees a little bit less volume, gets a little bit more of those touchdowns. But I think we pretty well established that Adam Thielen is kind of the 1B in this offense. And I'm expecting Irv Smith Jr. to get much more involved this year. And if it affects anybody, I think it affects Thielen in the red zone before it affects Jefferson.
Gotcha. Number 20, I have Deontay Johnson of the Pittsburgh Steelers. You have Kenny G of now the New York Football Giants. And for me, it's all about volume for Deontay Johnson. I know you have another Steeler in your top 24 here towards the end of it, which we'll talk about. But Deontay Johnson, it's just pure volume, right? What is the one knock that everybody wants to bring up on Deontay Johnson? It's the drops, right? It's his hands. How many fantasy points did he leave on the table in just drops last year? And if it wasn't for those drops, honestly, I'd have him probably up in the top 15 because of the amount of volume that he gets. But I dropped him down here to 20. The volume is still going to be there. There's still going to be a pass-heavy offense in Cleveland, in Pittsburgh to put up with the likes of Cleveland and Baltimore, even Cincinnati in their division. Now they're going to have to score points, right? These teams are better. So I got Deontay Johnson right here at 20, where you have Kenny G.
Yeah, Kenny Golladay, I mean, we're still gonna see that big playability. The volume isn't gonna be there like we saw last year in Detroit, and the year before, prior to getting, when he was healthy last year. I use quotation marks loosely there. It's still going to be the big playability for him. How often is he going to do that? That's why instead of having him up towards the top 10 this year, though, we've got him more towards number 10 or more towards number 20 now. And with Deontay Johnson, it is all about those drops for me. I am worried about him. That's why I've got him outside the top 24, because I think some of the targets we saw go towards him last year are going to filter to Chase Claypool this year.
Yep, that would not surprise me if that were to happen either. So 21, I have CeeDee Lamb. This is where you have Adam Thielen, 2 guys we've already spoke on. 22, I have DJ Chark. Everybody's still hopping off this bandwagon. And the reason that I put DJ Chark in here and why I have spoken on him numerous times here this offseason, it's because of the value that you can get him at. You are not reliant on DJ Chark this year. He is not going to be somebody that you must start every single week this year. However, he's playing in an offense now that is greatly improved. He's no longer the guy there. They have Marvin Jones opposite of him. They have other weapons in the backfield. They have their franchise quarterback in Trevor Lawrence, and they have a horrific defense, and they're going to be losing every single week and having to throw a lot. That's why I have DJ Chark here. I don't want people to forget about DJ Chark because he's somebody that you can probably get as your wide receiver 3 in some cases, depending on how you draft early. And if it pans out for you, he's going to be a locked and loaded guy for you every single week.
Yeah. with DJ Chark, it's not that I don't like him. I like him actually more this year than I did last year. Last year, I was concerned about him. With Trevor Lawrence, I do like him a little bit more, but I see DJ Chark as being more of a guy that is going to have, like we talked about earlier with some of these wide receivers, like DK Metcalf, like he's going to have these gigantic games at times, but at other times he's going to have really poor performances. And it's just because I feel like him and Marvin Jones Jr. are a little too similar. And with Marvin Jones being that veteran that's been in the league for so long and been so consistent, I just feel like him and Lawrence might have a little bit of a click more at the beginning than him and Chark will. And it might take Chark just a little bit of time to kind of catch up and bring in Trevor Lawrence is really feeling comfortable with him.
So you have number 22, Cooper Kupp, who I have just one spot lower at 23. Everybody's making a big deal out. They're seeing these crazy catches in minicamp. They're out there playing in shorts. I mean, come on, guys. It's the NFL. These guys make spectacular catches like every practice.
And
like, don't over-exaggerate it. Don't all of a sudden say Cooper Kupp is the wide receiver one because you saw him make a one-handed catch in the back of the end zone from Matthew Stafford. But he still has great value, and he's at a cheaper price than he has been in the past years. So he's still a solid option, a solid wide receiver 2 here once again in 2021.
I mean, in years past, people drafted him as a top 12 wide receiver. Mm-hmm. I don't think he's going to be the red zone threat that he was with Jared Goff, but he could be used by Matthew Stafford in the same way that Stafford used to use Golden Tate. So, and Golden Tate was such a value every single year. Yep. Kupp is a little bit more expensive than what Tate used to be, but still, if he's used in the same form, is he going to have as high as a ceiling as Robert Woods? I don't believe so, because then Robert Woods to me is more of like the Marvin Jones of that offense when they first signed him, and then Golden Tate is more of the Cooper Kupp.
Right, I gotcha. So number 23 is where I have Kupp one spot lower. You have OBJ, Odell Beckham Jr. has creeped into your top 24, and you are happy about it.
It's his second year in this offense. He's not dealing with that garbage Freddie Kitchens crap anymore. Yes, last year was basically a complete loss for him, but he still played in a few games. He still had time to learn the playbook. He's been with Baker Mayfield for 3 years now, so if it's going to happen, it's going to be this year. But you're not drafting Odell Beckham Jr. as a wide receiver 1 anymore. You're getting him as like a damn wide receiver 3 with his ADP. So even if you don't like the guy, who cares? What if you do draft him as your wide receiver 3 and all of a sudden the dude balls out? It's one of those league winning decisions.
Yep. There's no risk to it this year like there has been in years past. 100%. 24 is where I have Kenny Golladay. Like you kind of mentioned earlier, the volume just isn't going to be there as much, and I'm not quite 100% sold that Daniel Jones takes that big of a step forward to where he can supply everything that he has now with Kadarius Toney, and they brought in John Ross, and what about Sterling Shepard and Darius Slay? I mean, there's just so many options for him now. I hope that Kenny G doesn't get lost in the mix, but this is where you have the Steeler that we mentioned earlier, Juju Smith-Schuster.
I think people are giving Juju absolutely no credit for the season that he had last year. It was a really, really good season. It just wasn't the craziness that we saw of him when Antonio Brown was there. He's exactly what this offense does right now. He's got the chemistry with Ben Roethlisberger, and he's exactly what Roethlisberger needs because of his arm now. And Juju will also be coming up in a video at some point this offseason. Wow,
you're just teasing every video that you're possibly doing this offseason, but this is our top 24 here. Oh my gosh. Okay, that's enough. Don't start whispering. People will leave. This is the top 24 wide receivers here heading into July. So we'll continue to update these as the offseason progresses. If anything changes, we'll make sure we keep you guys notified because we're doing daily videos, right? I mean, we do a video every single day about something to make sure that you have every piece of information that you could possibly ever want. If there's something that you don't have, leave it down below in the comment section. We go through the comments all the time, try to interact as much as we can. Boom. And if we see some ideas and there's some shows we can do, we will definitely listen to the people of Headliner Nation. So make sure you leave those comments down below. You hit that like button, subscribe to the channel because we're not going to let you down here all year long. We'll give you all the content you could possibly want. So hopefully you guys have a great rest of your day. And for Kyle and myself, have a good week. We'll talk to you later.